This is Chris Morton, and you're listening to The Recovery. Okay, so this is going to be the third episode in the series of starting an independent gym. In this episode, I'm going to cover and talk about location, actually setting up where you're actually going to physically have the brick and mortar gym, an actual address. It's actually, I found this part probably not the most challenging, but just an actual, it's just a big roadblock. Depending on where you are in the world, where you're in a big city, more regional, if there are other CrossFit boxes in the area, or it's a real sort of fitness town, can come up with a lot of different, just stock as to how you can actually find a location that, for one, isn't on the back door of another CrossFit box or another Fitness First or another F45 or another Anytime Fitness or another Snap Fitness. And then if you do find a little area or a suburb that you want to go into, is there actually anything available to rent, or even potentially maybe if you've got that sort of money to actually purchase the building. This is probably where you got to do the biggest research, and actually took me a ton of time. So I had the idea in late 2018. So the actual building that where Electric Fitness is in Burleigh Heads, I actually bought the building. I had the capital there to actually make a purchase as an investment. Then also can actually run, the operation or the gym via a separate company in the building. That was always an option for me, and that's what actually ended up happening. But to get to that stage, like when I actually purchased this building, was in I think it was February 2019. So that's where I got to. But to get to that, I guess we'll go back in time and see how I got to that. So I knew I was living on the Gold Coast, so I know that I was going to have this gym somewhere on the Gold Coast. Ideally, I wanted something fairly close to home, so I didn't have a huge commute. I wanted have a bit of a lifestyle factor, getting to and from work. So that was a consideration. So some of the initial suburbs that I wanted to get into, the one I really wanted to do, I wanted to be in Miami. There's a few nice little nooks where you can actually, recreational areas within Miami. And that's where my old CrossFit box was, in Miami as well. Next to the fruit shop in Miami that people will know that live in the area. There's actually a few good little warehouses. So most sort of CrossFit boxes tend to be, especially in regional areas, are run in warehouse areas. Maybe in bigger cities, you might be in like a shop front. These are sort of the different considerations that you'll go through. I really wanted, my wish list was Miami. Secondary to that was to be in Burleigh Heads. I started I was just looking for commercial properties that I could either lease or I could purchase, and just to get an idea on what the rent would be. So that's a big, it's one of your biggest expenses, fixed expenses when running a gym, is going to be your rent and your staff wages. So to get the best deal that you can, because that's going to be a fixed cost, you're going to be in a lease probably for at least 3 years. That money, once you sign that lease to the landlord, they want that money. They're not going to turn around and go, they want that money every month. The other option was, like I mentioned before, to actually purchase the building. Because to actually buy into commercial property, it's actually quite an attractive investment. You get really good rent out of the building as a landlord. And yeah, if you get in the right location, can be quite a good asset that appreciates over time. So yeah, I started looking around, and yeah, basically Miami is there's just no stock. There's like nothing comes up. So there's one that actually came up for sale. I think it was an old boxing gym, and it came up for sale. So someone had vacated and they were selling the building, but I happened to be overseas on a holiday at the time, so it just sort of never eventuated. But it just sort of gave me an idea. I think they were asking for like $700,000 to buy the building, which was in my budget. So it's just sort of starting to get a bit of a feel for the market. I don't know if you've ever purchased or bought a home. It can take quite some time to get to know a feel of the market, to see what things are. And I've always said that you have to see a lot of property. Just go to open homes for basically for months. Get a real good understanding for property, see where everything sits in your mind. And then when you actually see something that you really like, you'll have a really, really good understanding of what it's worth, and you can feel really good about the purchase if you go ahead with the purchase. So yeah, Miami wasn't really much around. And then what happened is Urban Southport came on the market. The old owner there wanted to sell. And yeah, I actually went and met him, told him I was looking to start up my own box. I hadn't considered having a gym in Southport. They've been around for quite some time, have quite a large membership there. So he was basically, he wanted to move on, had a few other things that he wanted to do. So I actually, went ahead and actually got into negotiations with him, got to see, basically his books and how he was going with the business. Actually got quite close on it. It was, I think it was between me and another person. So I think when people go to try and sell their business, especially in the gym world or a CrossFit box, they probably have unrealistic expectations of what they think their business is worth. And I'm afraid to say most of them aren't worth that much. All the members that are in the business are usually quite tied to the coach that is coaching them for years, and they're not even on any contracts. So as soon as that coach that leaves, everyone can just basically leave tomorrow. No one's tied into year contract or an year and a half contract like at Fitness First, where you're tied in, you've got to keep paying. So it's like, if you are a hairdresser and you always have your favorite hairdresser, as soon as that hairdresser leaves your area, you basically have to go find another hairdresser. Or if, just say you're going to Stefan and you always have that one hairdresser, you're only going to Stefan because of that hairdresser, you're not going because of Stefan. That's sort of how I can see a lot of it with boutique gyms. People get really tied into the personality of either the head coach or the coaches there, or even the owner of the business. So in saying that, I put in an offer. I felt it was pretty much just worth the plant and equipment, and then I actually gave him an offer based on how long the members would stay around and how much I would progressively pay him over time. But he knocked me back and said that he was going to go with someone else. So that I was like, all cool, no problem, that I understand. So I just kept, which is what, it was over at Southport. It was going to be probably a good half an hour drive to get there, and with traffic. Really, really nice box. But even the way I wanted to run the box, it might have been a bit jarring, me coming in with different ideas. And that was a really traditional CrossFit style box run that way. And I actually, if you've listened to my other two episodes, have a lot of different views and ideas where CrossFit was going and how I wanted to position. I would have most likely wanted to have rebranded Urban CrossFit into Electric Fitness, for example. So that wasn't to be, which is fine. So I just kept going on with the plan of trying to find a location, start everything from scratch. I'd be, not having to take on all these current members and all the stuff going on there without knowing them from a bar of soap. Then I looked at, there's a couple in Burleigh Heads came up. So Burleigh Heads is this funny place, like it's right, obviously you've got Burleigh Heads Beach, and it goes all the way out to Reedy Creek, and there's like a big massive industrial zone as well, and there's a ton of warehouses, like they're just everywhere. But there's also almost every second street in this warehouse part of Burleigh Heads, there's a gym. There's 2 or 3 CrossFit boxes in there. There are independent gyms left, right, and centre. There's PLCs. There's F45s. There's just everything going on in Burleigh Heads. I was constantly looking at places online. There's a few that I actually went out and had a look at the spaces. And this was to purchase the buildings. There's a couple that I got sort of keen on, and when I got keen, I had a town planner who I would sort of through this process wanted to involve, because I knew that with purchasing or trying to run a gym on the Gold Coast, you need most places you need a change of purpose of the premises to go to from being zoned as light industrial to fitness and recreational license. So that you have to actually apply to the local council to get that through, so you can actually use the warehouse for a different purpose than what it was originally intended, which a lot of gyms on the Gold Coast got caught out about a year prior. I think some of the original, maybe more established CrossFit boxes and other gyms were correctly zoned, but a heck of a lot weren't. But they actually didn't even know that they needed to be. So there was a lot of miscommunication going on, and a lot of guys just shut their doors or had to scramble and basically put in their permit or put in their application to get a permit or where they were, or have to shift to somewhere where it was more suitable. So I knew that was going to be part of the process, and so that's why I had this town planner on board. So anytime I looked at anything, I would say to him, look, almost all of them were not intended to be recreational, so I knew a change of purpose would have to have been done. And what he was saying, that just give me the property address and I'll have a quick squiz, and he could say, yep, that sort of fits a lot of the guidelines that council's looking for. He goes, nah, straight away I can tell that will never get through, forget about that property. And he actually told me that on a couple of properties. So it was really good to have him in my corner. I kept looking. Nothing was suitable, nothing coming up. And a few times I was like, I don't think I can actually do this. I said, I don't even know how you can actually start a new CrossFit box on the Gold Coast. It's just way, way, way too difficult to actually find a location, and a location where you're not on the doorstep of another functional fitness or another gym. The other option is you don't need zoning if you're in a built-up area. So a lot of shopping centres, you don't need to go to council. It's just included from being in a shopping zone area. So like EMF, for example, in Pac Fair, anyone can actually just open up a gym in that area or in the shops. You don't need to apply to council. You need to apply to the landlord of Pacific Fair if you want to run your business there, but you don't need to ask council as well. It's really, really extremely difficult proposition to find a location. Then time passed, and in the background I was just working on the website and marketing. I just thought in my mind, well, I'm going to have to do all these things. I really want this. Let's just start working on the website. So I was getting the website done. Started looking at gym software. Started looking at different gym systems, like business systems, and just doing lots of research as to how I should be operating this business once we're going. And then, at some point, The warehouse that I purchased, 35 Lemana Lane, and the one next door, I think it's 37 or 33 Lemana Lane, was up for auction via Lacey West, local commercial real estate agents. So there was actually two properties to have a crack at. Both were the same, but the one that I ended up getting had a built-in mezzanine. So downstairs where we are right now, where I'm filming my podcast, and then upstairs is an actual office, and then you got the main warehouse area, and then it's got like a car park area, gated lot, and it's freehold as well. But the previous owner, he actually owned both of the warehouses, but they're both being up for auction, and they're going to be freehold. So yeah, it was like, I funnily enough had been through an auction once before. Recently bought a home later that's... Oh no, I got that mixed up. So yeah, I did two auctions that year, one for a home that I bought, and then also, this was up for auction as well. So yeah, talked to the agent, came and had a look at the place, and it was just perfect. It's exactly what I was looking for. Like, the area is in an up and coming area. There's nothing around here except for, I think you go to the Gold Coast Highway. There's Anytime Fitness a bit further up. The closest CrossFit box is in Mermaid Beach, which was CrossFit Harpoo with Renee, but that's still like another whole suburb away. I'm sort of on that border, like literally over the road is Miami. I'm right on that border of Miami, North Burleigh, and then all the other CrossFit boxes are all the way at the back over, getting to more industrial, suburban Burleigh Heads, Reedy Creek, bit further away. So I was in a real nice little. This was in a nice little area. A lot of foot traffic. So it just everything like it's a big building, really high ceilings. Probably more than it's needed, but that's just what was available. So and it had on-site parking as well. So I was like, man, it's got on-site parking. That's was my biggest gripes of a lot of boxes that you got to basically park 2 or 3 streets back to try and actually get to your box. And one of my visions as well, I wanted this to be a real premium experience, because that's the sort of clientele and members who I want, that really want that extra level of service, and having on-site parking fits that bill as well. So yeah, I came and have a look, and then talked to my town planner, and I said, look, mate, really have a good look at this. I'm keen on it. Let me know what you think. And he basically came back really positive. I said, look, it's going to auction in a couple of weeks. And then he just let me know like what we can do. We can do a pre-lodgement with council. And we did that. And that came back as like council will never give you a green light in a pre-lodgement, but I'll let you know what you basically need to do to put in a formal approval for a change of purpose. So you had to do like an acoustic test on the place, had to do a parking survey, had to get that's actually if I went ahead and won the auction. So I probably jumped ahead there. So yeah, the day of the auction, got the pre-approval go ahead from my town planner as best as we could. There's nothing guaranteed in life with council and on permits. And yeah, we went to the auction. I think from memory, I don't know if my one was first or the one next door was first. I think the one next door, 33, went first, and I wasn't keen on that one. So it was a real gamble. I was like, I want to get one of them, and it actually didn't suit me. I actually wanted this to go first, because if I didn't get 35, I knew I had a second crack at 33. Because at 33 Lemana Lane, it didn't have a mezzanine or an office. I would have to have spent money to build it. But it also, whatever auction price that came out, I knew this one was worth a little bit more. So yeah, that auction over there went ahead at 33 first. Didn't even bid. It went. So I knew the price that it went for. And then it came to the auction here. And I knew I had a pretty strong budget to play with. And yeah, I think I got into a couple of bids with one or two guys, but I was being pretty strong with my bids by doing in jumps of, I can't remember, but it was like you get bid against, and I would go 5k up, and then the next guy would just go $1,000 above me, and I'd go 5k more, and then I get $1,000 above me. Then I think I did another one 5k more, and I killed the competition in the auction, and got a price that was a little bit more than next door, but not dramatically more. I think I did pretty well with the price. So yeah, it's a pretty scary feeling. If you've ever been in an auction, it's but you just got to do these things. If you're in the entrepreneurial space, you just have to do your research and back yourself, and just go with your instincts wherever you can. So signed on the dotted line, and Lacey West, funnily enough, one of the members, Will, is actually, he's one of the, it's a family-run business, and he's one of the agents with Lacey West, and he's one of the members. So it's just funny how that works. So yeah, that's how I came to getting the location, 35 Lemana Lane. So once I had the location, we put in the actual formal application to council for the change of purpose. There was some rent. It was leased out, and part of the purchase was that they only had one more month to run on the lease. So obviously, when I purchased the place, I let them know that I won't be renewing those tenants. But those tenants knew that anyway, and they were already looking to move on. The previous tenants was actually, if anyone on the Gold Coast remembers, when we had all those orange bicycles roaming around the place, here's where they were actually servicing them. So it's actually pretty funny, like when I was coming in and looking at the building, some of these bikes were just an absolute mess. Like they've been thrown in the river and this, and So I think from the time when I had purchased it to when moving in, they I think it was Tom Tate came out and said that they actually cancelled, or the Chinese guys that ran the bicycle business here pulled out of the Gold Coast. I don't think it was working out for anyone to have those bikes on the Gold Coast. So after a month, I got the place in February, and then I think by March I was actually able to move in and start looking at the fit out. So I'll leave this here for this episode. That's how I came up with getting the location and Burleigh Heads. And we'll see you in the next episode.